Hello, this is the Adsorption Science and Technology Lab that belongs to the Chem Lab of Serena. And in here we can study different types of adsorbent materials, so materials that have very small pores at the nanoscale. And in here we study the adsorption properties of these materials. So we can, for instance, using high vacuum pumps, we can make vacuum on the materials that we introduce inside these small cells. We can introduce this cell here, so we can connect the material to this line, and the purpose in here is to dose small amounts of different gases. It can be methane, CO2, nitrogen, propane, propylene, well, different gases for different purposes, and we can afterwards, with these measurements, to have information on equilibrium, so how much gas go inside the material and how much gas stay outside. So the adsorption properties can be assessed in this way. In this other equipment that we have also installed in here, we can do adsorption measurements, but instead of being with volumes that are measured, in this case is through an adsorption balance, so we can introduce our samples in here and we can evaporate small amounts of different vapors, of organic vapors or even water, and we can assess how much is adsorbed by the materials for different concentrations in the gas phase. With this, for instance, we can assess the performance of the materials to capture volatile organic compounds, for the contamination of air, application to indoor air quality, and also, for instance, in the case for nitric oxide assessment that is important for therapeutic applications. In this laboratory, we can continue to assess different adsorbent materials, but using a different technique. So in this case, we can, using mass flow meters, we can do mixtures of different gases that afterwards can pass through materials that we can put in different columns, and the materials are separated through this, and we can measure the concentration at the outlet of the column, in this case with the mass spectrometer. This is important because we can see how the materials perform for the separation of gases. This can be interesting, for instance, for CO2 capture, for methane purification from biogas or natural gas, for instance, separation of hydrocarbons. This is very interesting. We can also introduce some water vapor in the flow to understand what is the influence of the amounts of water in the separation of these other gases. Another type of experiment that we can do in here is to adsorb some vapors inside the columns at low temperature, and then heat up these columns and see how the vapors are being removed. This is a temperature program desorption type of experiment, and if, for instance, if we adsorb different vapors at the same time, we can understand what are the ones that are going out at lower temperatures and the ones that are going out at higher temperatures. And this gives information, fundamental information on the binding energy and also, of course, on the performance of the materials.